All right, here we are at task number 4, sliders. And I would say that this seemed to have been the thing that tripped most people up is this idea of a slider. And if you have used somebody else's version of Desmos, some pre-baked sketch that somebody made, then chances are you may have seen a slider before. Or maybe you accidentally created one. But sliders are super important in Desmos because it allows us to change values by just clicking on something and just kind of dragging it left and right. And we can make the number bigger, smaller. We can see what happens to a graph. So on this first one, it just wants us to make a slider that changes continuously between two numbers. And it's incredibly easy to make a slider. All you have to do is select any letter that you want to. Well, I say any letter. The ones that you don't want to do are X, Y, E, and R. So here's the reason why. I'm just going to demonstrate a couple of these for you. So here's X is equal to 1. The reason why I don't want to do X equals 1 is because it assumes it's a vertical line, because all vertical lines are in that form. It's X equals some sort of number. I don't want it to be a vertical line. I want some sort of slider. Okay? And then sort of related to that, if I had chosen y equals 1, it gives me a horizontal line. I don't want that either. I just want a slider that I can interact with. Now, I don't want to use, let's go back here, I don't want to use E. And the reason why I don't want to use E is because that's some strange irrational number that's a constant. So I'm going to go back and get rid of that one. And then another one I don't want to use is R, because R, well, here, let's just see what happens if I make this R equals something like 1. It assumes that this is the radius of some sort of circle that has, well, a radius of 1, or whatever number that we put in here. So other than that, like I said, I can choose just about any other letter that I want to. I'm going to choose A. A is a pretty good constant. And I tend to start with something like A equals 1. And notice what is right down below A equals 1. So there's an inequality. On the left-hand side here, you can put whatever smallest number you want A to be. And on the upper side, it is whatever biggest number that you want A to be, the maximum. And then the step is, how much do you want A to go up by every time you move the slider? For right now, I'm going to leave them all blank and see what happens. So I'm just going to click in another little box here and notice that it made a slider. And by default, it'll go from -10 to 10. And I can move this thing left or right. And you can see whenever I drag it, it looks like it's just increasing by tenths. But when I hit the little play button, it's actually a little bit more specific than that. So right now, when I'm moving this slider, it is continuously changing between -10 and +10. Now that word continuous in mathematics, it means that I hit every single number in between -10 and 10. Now, technically that's not possible because it is set to like some like digital increment, and I can see that really this is probably going up by hundreds. And whenever I do it by hand, whenever I do it by whenever there we go. Here, let me switch this. And you can stop it at any point and you can change it to a value that you want, then hit enter. Whoops, put an extra box there. And notice that when I did that, it snapped to that 5. And if I do this thing by hand, I can see that it looks like it's just in tenths. And maybe that's what I want. But if you look at the next statement here, sometimes you don't want all those decimals. Maybe the only thing that you want to investigate with your little sliders here are integer values. I just want whole numbers. If I want whole numbers, I can set that so that it's only positive. If I want positive and negative, I can also set that. And it's all in the setup here. So I'm going to choose a different variable. I've already used A, so I want to use a different letter. So maybe I choose B. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. B is equal to 1. And then I'm going to set up my slider right underneath that. So underneath it, I can default from -10 to 10, just like I did before. I'll leave that alone. I can switch those things if I need to for whatever the slider is supposed to be used for. But the thing that I do need to change, if I want them to be integer values, is the step size. That's how much it goes up by. That needs to be 1. And now whenever I click in another one of these little boxes, notice that there's tiny little white dots on my slider because that's what it is going to snap into. You can hit the play button. You can see that that's all it's ever going to do is hit nothing but integers. Okay, and then one other thing is, let's say that I want to go back and edit it. All I have to do is just kind of click on that little box, puts the cursor right by that -4, and let's say that I want only positive ones for whatever reason. So I'm going to start here at 0 and then just leave the upper one blank, but who knows, maybe I want this thing to go all the way up to 100. Okay, and then click someplace else, and you can see that I can vary just by integers from 0 to 100. Now, further down in this activity, we can see some of the usefulness of what these sliders can do, but I'll just kind of give you a little preview of this. Let me just hit enter. And what I want to do is, let's say, for example, I wanted to make an equation of a circle that has this thing as a radius, and then what I can do is I can vary it. So the equation of a circle that's centered at the origin, it sort of looks like the Pythagorean theorem. Looks like this. So x squared plus y squared is equal to, so it's like your a squared plus b squared, and then needs to be equal to a c squared. It's just the c is actually your radius. So I'm going to make this equal to, and then I'm just going to choose one of these two variables that are being controlled by the slider. So I'm going to just use a here. So go to the alphabet, a, and then I'll square that one too. So it's like a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? So now I've got myself a circle. It's centered at the origin, and it has a radius currently of 3.3. As a matter of fact, if I just kind of click on this, I can see that on actually on the screen here that it's at 3.3. Now, if I vary the slider here, I can see that that's also going to change the radius. And this is why it is so, so cool to be able to understand what sliders do. Because let's say I'm investigating something, I'm doing an SAT question, and I have all these choices, and I'm not quite sure what they are and what the answer is supposed to be. Well, I can make a little slider here, and I can look at thousands and thousands of cases in mere seconds. Very, very cool.